Create with Fran Sydney. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. This is Fran Sydney. I'm here for you and to help you to create the life that you want by changing a few things that might make you feel very uncomfortable. So I have today with us Kirsten Smith from Kings Lynn, which is right here, 40 minutes from where I am in Norfolk, UK. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to hear you, and you are very qualified in many things. Do you want to tell us what you do, first of all?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a coach, trainer and retreat leader. I'm mainly focusing on retreats, helping busy women to take time out from the day-to-day and to learn new skills for life improvement.
Excellent. And with Kirsten today, we're going to talk about the overwhelm of being a single parent.
That's right, yeah. So, for me, I became a single parent back in 2016. And at that time, I was also running a busy HR business. And really, I guess the overwhelm particularly started as soon as I was moved in on my own. I had a 2-year-old to deal with. I had a business to run. I had a house to run suddenly on my own. And very quickly, things started to become extremely overwhelming. You know, I was struggling a lot with many, many different tasks, as any person who's run a house by themselves will know, or dealt with a toddler, or run their own business. Those things on their own are tricky to manage. And so, I was really feeling like I was struggling. Things were difficult. I was kind of felt like I was juggling so much. And also at the same time trying to get over the breakup of a relationship. So definitely a very, very difficult time for me.
Absolutely. And here is the thing. If you guys who are listening now are in this situation, you're a business owner and you are alone now dealing with life, which is, mentally, even if your other half was not really very helpful, but there is something about having 2 adults in a household. All right, can you look after the baby while I go and get something to the grocery store? There is something there. And suddenly, especially those who do not have a family nearby, people like me, I moved abroad 27 years ago. I'm in England, do not have a single relative aside from my own kids, and one is in India. So they can't help. One is at college the whole day. So you are left on your own to deal with the enormity of doing everything. And it feels every day like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that?
Absolutely.
And it depends also on the type of resilience, personality we have. We want to be independent. We want to do it all on our own. We don't want to be victims. And we might end up going to burnout. So this sensation of overwhelm can be felt in many ways, right? One that I can think of is anxiety. Not anxiety as such, being fearful, but this constant thing on the back of your mind and a bit of a tension here in the chest, feeling, oh my gosh, I have all this stuff to do and I don't know how I'm going to do it. So that's one thing. It might keep you awake at night, so you're not sleeping well. You might change your lifestyle because you cannot afford the lifestyle you had before, because now the income is different, or because you have a child to look after, so you can't go to work. Is there any other symptoms that come to your mind?
I think really just this feeling of as if things are bearing down on you. I think you mentioned anxiety there, and I think that's really true. There's this constant kind of, I call it the ticker tape, that kind of goes around your mind all the time. I need to do this, I need to do that. I've got to remember shoes, I've got to remember PE kit, I've got to remember food, I've got to remember all of these different things. And because, as you say, the impact of being in your house on your own without, like you say, I don't have family nearby either. So it's not like you just can pop to the shop to get something, or, pop out and do something. If you've forgotten something, you've forgotten it, and you've got to work out how you're going to get it, especially with a screaming toddler who might not understand why he can't have the red yogurt that he always has. He has to have the orange yogurt instead, or, those kinds of things. It is just a real feeling of anxiety and kind of pressure. I think that would be the main symptom. And like you say, that impacts everything. It impacts sleep, it impacts friendships, relationships, everything.
Yeah. And also for those who end up being single and they have a small child who is not sleeping properly, and so it wakes you up, You cannot say to your partner, all right, can you just take the child to school or take the older child to school because I'm absolutely exhausted. You just cannot. And you cannot ask a friend, yeah, can you come here for a week so I can sleep?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's something that I remember quite clearly is, sleep had not been an issue, up until about 2. I mean, yeah, before that, all bets are off really. But, from 2 years old, he was sleeping pretty well. And then came this kind of crazy sleep regression where I would not be getting very much sleep at all. And then I would be having to go out and, run my business during the day, going out to see clients, doing the nursery run, doing all of the things that you kind of still have to do. And really there's no kind of additional support there anymore to help you with those things.
Yeah, and the schools, I don't know about the other places, but in the UK, you might have one day that the kids are half an hour late coming out. You might have your child that is always the last in the queue. So you're wasting all this time in the school run. You can't park anywhere. You have to walk there. So like an hour and a half goes sometimes. By the time you get there, the traffic, the congestion. These are small roads, guy, looking from the States. It's small roads. Can't park anywhere. They put bumps on the roads. You can't go. It just, the stress of doing the school run for these primary kids. And then they might have this parents' evening, concerts, activities, and you have to go. You have to go. And you cannot take time off work. So you're always thinking, wow, I cannot attend anything. And then your boss says, well, you're useless here. And so that's a real stress for the parents because we want to be present with the children. We want to do our work so we can pay the bills, but we can't really cut ourselves out.
Yes, it's a bit of a constant juggle, really.
Yeah. So that's why we want to talk about overwhelm, because some people might medicate the overwhelm instead of finding solutions. And they might end up drinking. They might end up with addictions. They might end up being very angry or maybe having withdrawal symptoms. There could be a lot of ways that people deal with, they've been maybe very depressed because they feel that's it, that's all I can do. Or they might end up in a toxic relationship just for the sake of being rescued by being single and alone because they think, oh yeah, this guy's going to take care of me, and you end up in a big, big trouble. So you managed to come out of this sensation of being overwhelmed. You're still busy, right, guys? She's still busy. But how did you use your knowledge of the mind and coaching? Or did you not know about it yet? And when you discovered it, what happened to make you better?
Yeah, so I kind of discovered it more than anything. So at the same time, really, around the time that my marriage ended, so back to 2016, 2017, I went into both therapy and coaching. So obviously therapy being quite past focused. So dealing with a lot of the sort of the things that come up through your childhood and through your life that impact who you are. So I started to realize how hard I was on myself around things. So that was really transformative in terms of therapy. And actually, I think they worked quite well together. So one area that I really shifted was my mindset. So I had this real kind of pressure on myself that, everything needed to be perfect. The house needed to be clean. Everything, the washing always needed to be done and folded. The house needed to look nice. My child needed to look nice. I needed to look nice. And really, when you're putting that much pressure on yourself, something is going to give, right? And at the time, my mental health was the thing that was giving, but what I managed to do is shift that. So what I started to realize is really that I can't control everything. Nobody can control everything, can they? And you kind of have to almost lower standards in a way. So, actually one great advantage of living on your own or living, just with yourself and a child is you've got nobody to worry if there's things all over the floor, or if the dishwasher hasn't been unloaded, or if there's pots and pans in the kitchen, or if the washing is hung out for a week. So what I've actually done, one huge shift, is to actually lower my expectations around what is realistic. I think the issue initially and the overwhelm comes from setting yourself something that's a completely unrealistic standard of living. And so I've really, really changed that expectation. And honestly, yes, and I still do go, of course, I still go through every week thinking, I've still got lots and lots to do, but I'm less likely to let it overwhelm me now, especially because of that big mindset shift, which is let things go. You cannot possibly, I could spend all weekend and every evening cleaning, tidying, putting things away, it still wouldn't be done. So ultimately the thing that has to change is your own mindset around it, right?
Yes. So the change has to be internal, which is something that we talk a lot about. We are almost on 200 episodes. And we always see that it's internal, it's inside. The environment sometimes is out of control. This happened. You can lose your partner, they can die, they can be so ill that you're basically living like a single. They could be working abroad all the time, so you're living as a single. So this overwhelm, as you are running the business, can really have a friction in your life, can it? Because you might have an Etsy shop or you work at the market and they have expectations. So customer service inspect you everything immediately, but you got a life. So we understand it. So isn't that about priority then? Prioritizing what matters now?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are a lot of days where I kind of just go, let's just do the absolute basics. And I think that's a really kind of big lesson for me in terms of one of the kind of strategies that I've used. So for example, there have been times when things have got really bad where I've thought the only thing I can do right now is stop and literally just do the things that really, really have to be done. So back in my HR business and even now I work with a lot of other parents, and so people do really understand, and single parents, people really do understand, whether they have a partner around or not, that you can't do everything. They understand that too. So people will allow you to push things or change things. It's not something that I try to do all the time, but when people really understand that, if you have an ill child or something like that really throws a spanner in the works, people are very, very understanding about changing things. So yeah, that managing expectations and that sort of really just prioritizing and thinking, you know what, no one is gonna not get fed if this floor isn't hoovered, making sure that you're changing those kind of expectations of yourself. And I think that sort of brings me on quite nicely to another point that I wanted to make, which is how you're feeling about it for yourself. So really, I used to actually have quite negative self-talk, and I used to expect so much of myself that was just totally unrealistic. And through both therapy and coaching, what I started to do is reframe that a bit. Just because you haven't failed because your house doesn't look perfect, or because all of your tasks on your to-do list aren't done, or your child goes to school with toothpaste down their top, which is something that happens quite regularly at my house. So it's about that. It's about changing the way that you're talking to yourself, and that is something that is huge and does take quite a long time if you sort of do have any issues around that. If you don't talk to yourself in a particularly positive way, reframing that is so powerful, because ultimately you are doing your best. Nobody is out there going, I'm not even trying here. Everyone's trying and trying their best, and there is only so much you can do. It's a very linked point, but I think it's almost just a slight external shift versus an internal one. Forgiving yourself and giving yourself that kind of like a sort of license, if you like, to say, you know what, you're doing your best. Let's just reframe that. Okay, you didn't manage to do that today, but there were lots of reasons why. Look at all the things you have done.
Yeah, so looking at the positive is important. Although we do understand that sometimes when you're splitting up from your partner and you have child children, here's my English shining, in the house, and you have a business, you might go through certain stages. It's like a death, like a funeral. It felt to me like that. So you have a grieving process, the shock, and then the new situation, because you have a different status in society. If you're single, living together, married, divorced, widow, it's a different status, isn't it? And people might treat you differently in your club. So you might realize, for example, that before you had all these couples and you were doing activities with these couples. So you had your weekends were taken, your children used to play with their children, and now suddenly you're single. So couples are no longer inviting you. So your social life might change completely. You might be around single and fear to be a prey, to be somehow abused by somebody, or people who are stalkers, because, nowadays it's a little bit the dating scene is quite treacherous, and I recorded 2 episodes on that recently, and it's really quite bad out there. So to know who you trust. So add to all the overwhelm the fact that you might think, I am never gonna get married again. I'm never gonna stay with anyone else. I don't trust anyone, because maybe your ex has done a lot of stuff. And you might actually say, well, I might as well be single because I don't trust anyone. And you might have an internal chat that after this interior period, maybe a month, 3 months, then it might go very negative and start, oh yeah, your mom told you, your dad told you, all this childhood stuff, all the unprocessed trauma and memories that might hinder our chances to move forward and then create this new life. Yeah, this is all about creating the life you want. So my idea is, so we have this focus and we have this, don't we have some direction there? We need to, at a certain point, once the big pain, the big shock is gone, we have to sit down with ourselves and take some time and say, all right, leave a house, the child is fed, what do I want to see in the next 5 years? What do I want to see in the next year? And think about that. And this is probably not having perfectly immaculate floors. So, although I do like a clean house, I'm Italian, so I've been drilled and hammered about cleaning the house all the time. Not a crumb on the floor. However, when you are in this situation and really fight or flight, in the beginning, you are just surviving. You're hanging to the Titanic. you have this. You have a, what's the name of that thing? Plastic floating bits that come out from a boat. You're attached to that and you don't want to let go.
Yes.
So you have to think how to survive. You're in survival mode. That's all. So you have to stay safe, stay alive, and just think about eating, drinking, and resting, and take care of this baby that you might have, or maybe multiple babies. After the period's gone, then you can start thinking, okay, what do I want next? How do I deal with my relationship? And lots of us will really do well with going to therapy to fix this broken self-confidence might have gone down. Our hope for the future might be dashed.
Yes.
And who knows what else? And then you want a coach, because a coach will give you what? Clarity, focus, strategies. And I know that you offer retreats. Why would you offer retreats to an overwhelmed business owner who is already full of stuff? What's the benefit?
So it's really about, so for example, I like to make sure, I think people lose how they are going to have fun. So what is it that I enjoy? So that was a huge thing for me coming out of my marriage. Like, who am I and what do I enjoy doing? Because I think as parents and as busy business owners and as single parents, you can really, really lose yourself. So what do I like to do to have fun? What can I enjoy? Who do I have as connections? We may have many, many connections, but how useful are they, and how useful is it to gain other perspectives from other people that we perhaps don't know, who might be in the same situation as us? And then also, how do we rest? So something that I really, really notice particularly around busy women, busy professional women, is that we are not very good at resting. We might go to sleep at night, but how good is that sleep quality? What else are we doing to rest? I saw a meme this week that's been going around, which says me resting equals my brain thinking, how can I rest in a more productive way? And I think that kind of sums it up for me, because it's like we feel like we've got to be constantly on the go. And I did this yesterday. It was Mother's Day. I was lucky enough to have my now partner cooking me lunch. He then went off with his son and I rested. I had a nap. I sat and read my book on the sofa. My son was quite happily entertaining himself. And straight away you start to hear this voice in your head going, should you be resting? Shouldn't you be getting the school uniform ready? Shouldn't you be doing this? Shouldn't you be doing that? And I think that can be a real battle. So I want to teach women more strategies on how to rest. So definitely those are the main things that I want people to come away and have a retreat and do. I think it's important to kind of re-educate our minds, because we feel guilty for doing these things. And so those are my main aims. I guess the fourth aim as well is to learn. So I don't want people to just come on a retreat and go, that was a really nice weekend, now I'm going to go back to my stressful life and nothing is going to change. The point for me is you come away, you have your fun, you have your connection, you have your rest, and you learn. So you can go home and you can apply these new tools, and you can start to change things in your life, because ultimately that's what it's all about for me, is that kind of change and progress.
That's a good thing, and we deserve it. We deserve to rest the mind and the body like everyone else.
Absolutely.
Maybe a bit of a sweeping statement, but are men a lot better than us? Because they have a compartment. You know, the men's brain and women's brain by Max Ganger, a pastor on YouTube with millions of views. The man's brain is like, he's finished work, he comes home, closes the door, I'm done. I'm finished, I close the door, and I'm here just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna watch TV, have a bath, go in the men's shed. That's it. The woman goes to work, comes back home, and home is her second job. So she starts thinking, oh, now I have to do.
Yeah.
And she has a list of stuff. So by the way, by the time she goes to bed, she had 2 full-time jobs, plus looking after the child. And so the woman never switches off, does she? When she's home, she is at work. Yeah. People don't understand that. This is work.
I think that definitely can be the case, but also I definitely have learnt more strategies and ways of switching off, and I think that you can. I mean, it's not, I would say it's forever a work in progress. So I learn a lot of strategies. I can't always apply them. There are other things that impact that. You know, obviously as women, we have hormones to contend with as well. So I definitely find there is a certain week of the month where I do find things a lot more overwhelming than normal. But again, recognizing that and kind of like dialing down the things that I expect of myself during that week is, it's insanely, it's a game changer, I would say. I really have kind of learned that there are times where I can be more productive than others, and that's been kind of quite transformative in that. And also, you know, I think the more that you do these things and the more you say, right, this is I'm ring fencing this as my time for rest, my time for self-care. And I know it's hard to find those pockets, so you don't find them, you make them. Basically that becomes part of your routine and part of your non-negotiables. You know, you wouldn't say I'm not going to brush my teeth today, or I'm not going to eat today. You know, you kind of have to make it non-negotiable.
So yeah, priorities will make our direction, values, and everything, put them all together and put the puzzle, rearrange everything so that it will work in our new life, because that's how it is. So we have to decide as early as possible after the big crash of separation, breakup, and the children might be, you know, shocked as well. So they might be misbehaving in school. So we understand this is terrible. It happened to me, it happened to you, and happens to 40% of marriages and 60% to second marriages. So, plus there are people who live together, and these are not statistically counted, but they exist. So you are for several years with somebody, and then they walk off.
Yes.
And you have the same identical problems, plus non-legal coverage for your issues. So how do we deal? So first, let's sum up. You deal with your initial crush, so trying to put yourself together. Maybe you have a friend or a therapist. Mm-hmm. Good thing. Then start to reassess where you are. Mm-hmm. What do you want in the short term? Absolutely. What do you want in the long term? Yes. And at the same time, let go of this unrealistic expectation to keep living the same life we had before and to have everything perfect. So the child, the house, the clothes, the cleanliness, not everything can happen unless you're maybe very, very rich and you have people to take care of everything and you can pay for it. I can see how you can have an immaculate house during divorce. But otherwise, you might not be in the mood. And then really take that time to nourish yourself. Because you know why? I know a lot of people who are very successful and they still have a husband. And they're running the whole time and they hire people to do lots of jobs. But they're running. And then there's a point that they're doing 100K, 200K a year. And then they burn out.
Yes, the crash.
It takes them less than 1 year to burn out. And I'm interviewing one today at 5 who went through that. She was highly successful, everything going. But in the end, she wasn't seeing the husband. She wasn't seeing the child. She would just, client. So overwhelmed, was mad. And in the end, she had to screech to a stop and say, is this what I actually want? Because we are trying to do everything. And there's a single parent who is working, doing everything, a viable So, one more tip before we go. What would you suggest if a person is now into this terrible period of separation and trauma and they're thinking, what's now? What do I do now? I feel like I'm crushed under the huge amount of, it's a big weight. You can almost see this black stone over you. What is the number one thing that people should do, in your opinion, after the first initial period of shock? We know.
I would say something like slow down to speed up. So that might sound like a bit of a paradox, but we are constantly on the go and on the go and on the go. And we don't have the time for thinking about ourselves, caring about ourselves, all of those kinds of things. I think it's really, really important to slow right down and kind of almost clear the decks a little bit. If there's anything that you can get rid of, anything that you need to be giving yourself that time, essentially. And by carrying on, like you say, on that constant speed, you are heading for burnout, right? So slowing down and giving yourself time and really listening to yourself, and really it's uncomfortable. It's a really uncomfortable place to be, which is, I think, is another reason that people go on and on and on. But getting kind of comfortable with being uncomfortable and really slowing down and spending time with yourself, understanding who you are and what you really want and what you really deserve. It does come with initial feelings of immense discomfort and pain. However, once you get out the other side of it, now I would not be without my alone time. I enjoy it immensely, and time with myself, understanding what I want and what I need at any given time is so important.
Thank you. Wise words that I hope everyone will put into practice as we all go through a period of overwhelm. And single or not, we need to understand, we need to nourish ourselves and learn well from those who are very good at doing that. Watch them and see how they're able to switch off and just take care of themselves, their mental health, physical health, and not neglecting what is really going to matter in 5 years, 10 years. Because in the end of the day, in 10 years, whether the house was perfectly clean, it won't matter. But if I don't take care of my own mental health, I will be heading to depression, suicidal thoughts, or whatever other problem. And then I might self-medicate or feel like drinking and whatever else because I can't cope, because the body is not designed for running like a space rocket, just going. We have to stop and reevaluate. So I'm really thankful that you came to my show, Kirsten, and so much wisdom, so much experience, and you offer amazing retreats. So I'm going to be very happy to put some links under my episode so people can contact you and maybe have a retreat that they truly deserve. Who knows? It could be.
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. If you like the episode and you want to share it, even click subscribe and like. We know what to do, and you also know what to do. Just click all those buttons and make us happy. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you all next week. Take care and bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You've listened to Create with Fran Sidney.